And so naturally, like, that's when I invested in a short-term rental mastermind, right?
Yeah.
So I invested in my education because I was like, I want to be an expert in this before I go and help others do the same thing that I'm doing here. Like I took responsibility because these are other people's homes that I wanted to manage. And so I took responsibility of really investing in my education to deliver a top-notch service better than anyone else out in that industry. So
how did you go from have my own duplex, I'm renting out, the other side is an Airbnb, to I now want to manage others? Like what was in there?
Right there was effectively this desire to accelerate my growth, right? And so I put in a good chunk of money into that down payment, right? And then now I was like, okay, I had two options, right? One option was, okay, let this make money, and then I'll save that, and then 3 years down the line, I'll invest in another home, right? And then I'll continue to do that, and that'll, like, over 10, 20 years will, like, scale my portfolio, and that'll have compounding effects. Nothing wrong with that, 100%. But what I wanted rather was, like, how do I get access to more capital so that I can accelerate that growth of, like, investing in more properties, or, just building a business that gives me more of that freedom as well too, right? Like, and now I had the background of, like, hey, I can do this for other people. Why don't I actually figure out how to do this for other people? Like, this was now my unique expertise, and I had that faith in myself that I can build a business
that show up. It's not that simple, and it's not that easy. And there's lots of failures and challenges and hurdles along the way. And so many people are ambitious, but stuck in shame and guilt, and then also fear. What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? And I'm curious, did you encounter those, and how did you navigate those? And did growth and the desire for growth play a role? Or what was that like?
Yeah. Definitely, right? Like, definitely shame, guilt, fear, like, all of that are just natural byproducts if you're not already on top of it, which, very few people are right out of the get-go, right? So, like, that's just a natural part of the process with building a business. You're going to face failures, you're going to face rejections, right? People are going to say no, things are going to go wrong, right? And that was just part of the process, I will say. And I, at that point in time, right, with that podcast, even the beginning of starting a short-term rental business, honestly, like, my fear of failure, like, for better or for worse, outweighed everything else, where I was like, I am not going to let myself fail. Right. So I'm just going to keep going and figure it out. Right. And so even as an engineer, right, like, we talk about system, we talk about team building. Like, I truly think that part came a little more naturally to me because of my previous experiences, but also how, I was programmed to think and solve problems as an engineer, right? Like, SOPs, like standard operating procedures, that type of thing, that was easy to me, or easier compared to sales, right? Where sales was less natural to me, but I had to master my craft in sales in order to really grow our businesses. So, answer your question though, like, shame, guilt, and fear were part of that process, but I just knew, like, with any business, you just can't give up, right? There's a reason that, again, that was my first business, but there was a reason why that went the way that it did too. And I didn't know it at the time, but part of it was my self-image of what I felt I deserved to earn, right? And also kind of the way I approached difficult situations too, right? I had this, it was easier for me to escape, and it was harder for me to get back on track, right? Because I couldn't acknowledge those feelings too. So it all was part of the process. As I look back at it, I'm like, yes, it all makes sense, but I don't regret any of those moments. It was all just part of the learning journey.
Yeah, and what an amazing perspective shift to take, where like, the quote, "The obstacle is the way," comes to mind from Marcus Aurelius. We often view them as these roadblocks when really they're stepping stones. When emotional pain isn't something we have to escape from, but is actually a teacher and can help us grow and can help us move forward.
I acknowledged it, set it aside, and I just kept staying positive and had the faith that everything would work out, because I'm making decisions and telling the universe that I'm ready for more, right? And I felt I had that faith that if I continue to do that over and over and over again, then the universe will reward me for that.
Yeah. And I love that.